We've been talking about teaching vocabulary using different strategies. Now I want to move on to looking at concept of definition word map. We've gone far beyond just looking at dictionary work, being able to write sentences for vocabulary words written on the board. The concept of definition word map was devised by Taffy Raphael and Robert Schwartz. Taffy Raphael is a powerful researcher from Michigan State University, and she's actually taught at a number of Big Ten universities. And Robert Schwartz is a researcher from Oakland University outside of Detroit. The way in which they pose being able to activate understanding of vocabulary is to be able to construe all the different uses of a word. So you take a central term, and we're not talking about just a simple word here. We're talking about something that involves complexity, and there's nothing wrong with using a process-oriented term like blowout preventer or some other type of usage that would be very specific to any type of major discussion. And how it's going to be developed, of course, is to come up with different properties or features or aspects following that word. We're going to make comparisons with another grouping of words, and we're going to be able to illustrate it by giving examples. So let's concretely go right into what we're talking about. The category here that we're looking at is rebellion, and in particular we're looking at People's Revolution. The way in which we can compare that is to civil unrest, rioting, and other type of civil disturbances. But People's Revolution, what we might mean here in the text to get the attributes of it is that there's loss of confidence in the government. There are mass marches, usually in the streets. There's sort of a reaction from the government that violence against civilians and citizens who are marching rightfully. And the government view represents only a small minority. And you would have seen this type of People's Revolution first in the Philippines in 1986 when President Marcos was overthrown, and certainly in East Germany in 1989 when people wanted out of the old Soviet bloc system, and most clearly in Iran in June of 2009 following elections there that were suspiciously had some funny numbers with regard to the vote totals. I provided down here other examples of concept of definition sources. In particular, you're going to want to go and look at the FORPD reading. It ties into Beck and McCowan. Beck and McCowan are major vocabulary researchers who've pointed out the relationship between being able to get at vocabulary in order to be able to facilitate comprehension. However, they were not the developers of the concept of definition map. That was done by Taffy, Raphael, and Schwartz. But they have a very good description of it. They also have down here, I don't know if you can see it too clearly, they have a PDF that you can click and download on, and you can follow their directions and their links that go into it. And they have the links also, if you have a subscription to the International Reading Association, you might be able to pick up this. Let me zoom in on here. You'll be able to pick up on this article by Robert Schwartz, Learning to Learn Vocabulary in Content Area Textbooks. It was published in the Journal of Reading, believe it or not, as far back as November 1988. But I first remember hearing about it from Taffy Raphael at a presentation that she made at the International Reading Association. There's also the Handbook of Reading Research, in which Margaret McEwen and Isabel Beck wrote that chapter. That chapter, I believe, is in my office in one of the Handbooks of Reading Research. Okay, and you also would want to go over to the Scholastic link there. This is a copyrighted handout that you can download with all the different steps to be able to do it. And they're looking here at some type of weather conditions, and you're able to then look at their examples. For example, these are natural disaster definitions. They also illustrate the concept definition map. In other words, what is it? There are all sorts of storms and other conditions. So, for example, if we wanted to focus, say, on hurricane, we would certainly be able to write in the properties of a hurricane. Say, for example, it starts as a low pressure system or a wave, usually in the middle Atlantic. And what are some examples of hurricanes? Well, we could certainly kind of describe Hurricane Ivan, and there's nothing wrong with being able to move literally into offering illustrations of the type of damage. Of course, flooding is an issue from the storm surge, and so Hurricane Katrina would be another good example. Next is there's a really excellent description of this by Schwartz and Taffy Raphael. This is in the Visual Thesaurus, and I had the link right there on that page. So here you have the attributes, and here are the examples. Here's the larger category for it. Poultry belong to meats. In general, this is such a low level of vocabulary term. I'm sure it's fine for a definition. However, it's usually I would want to, with a concept of definition map, I would want to tackle a more complex issue such as contamination of food sources, where you're getting at E. coli and other problems with food processing. And lastly, you would want to be able to take a look at this work by Sharon Walpole and Michael McKenna called Differentiated Reading Instruction Strategies for the Primary Grades, where they also go into a concept of definition map. And Michael McKenna from the University of Virginia, very fine researcher, explains how to use that and other graphically oriented organizers for being able to treat vocabulary. All right. So there's plenty of research on that. Your major researchers, of course, have to do with Schwartz and Taffy Raphael. Taffy Raphael is one of a powerful figure in the field of reading. She has really shown, several major findings from her. Let me just touch upon them. She's very strong in being able to argue for the quantity of reading, the volume of reading. So our multi-text, multi-level approach is congruent with hers. Secondly, she believes in process-oriented work, that only with projects are you able to set purposes well. Third, you'd want to be able to establish lots of background knowledge, and you would be doing that through a long-term thematic unit. So many of our ideas that we just are assumptions that we use originate from her work starting in the 1980s at the Institute for Research on Teaching.